Welcome to the Trader, a Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew. I'm a writer, podcaster, and researcher working in unscripted TV development. And this podcast is dedicated, of course, to the traitors all around the world. This season of the podcast is all about the Traitors India Season Two. Last time we began with their premiere episode, and today we are going to be analysing episodes 2 and 3 together. We're talking about the strategy, the tactics, the gameplay, the arguments, the accusations, the wild suspicions and theories that the players have, and some of the funny moments along the way as well. Last time I was joined by my wonderful co-host MaJiKer, and since we had so much fun and we both loved the series so much, we reckoned we maybe ought to just do episodes 2 and 3 together as well. Let's welcome him back. MaJiKer, welcome back to the podcast once more. We're going to be talking about episodes 2 and 3 of Traitors India Season 2. How have you been since last time we spoke? It's been a while.
मेथीकू आप कैसी है?
I feel ashamed I have not done my homework and can't respond to you. So,
You could just repeat exactly what I said. मेथीकू, I'm fine. आप कैसी है? You, how are? आप कैसी
okay.
है?
Metiku
Um,
ab kaisi hai.
आप कैसी? मेथीकू, आप कैसी है? And then we can just go on like that
Oh, we go
forever.
on forever for an
Yes,
hour worth of podcast, just us
I
saying
mean,
that over and over.
I mean,
I
with I'm sure our flawless Hindi pronunciation, this is what people are really tuning in for.
And if people are watching on YouTube, they will notice you have another beautiful background. Last time it was the wall of portraits. Today
Yeah,
you are joined by Boo, who's so well behaved. She's just sort of sitting very still,
yeah.
very sedate. So well done for capturing her and keeping her tame.
Yeah, the thing is, I had a word with her and I said, I don't want you to distract Matthew, who is a cat lover. So she's just going to chill. She looks like she's about to pounce, but actually she's chill.
Yeah. And MaJiKer, you were on episode 1 with me to talk about the premiere of the season. And of course, most people who are listening to us right now will have listened to that. But sometimes people just discover the podcast on YouTube and they think it maybe looks interesting and click it to see. So some people may not know who you are. Tell us a bit about you,
Mhm.
MaJiKer.
I am MaJiKer. I'm a musician, songwriter, producer, and performer, and I'm also a life coach and a big fan of the Traitors. I love languages, which is one of the reasons why I'm always having. I feel like more Hindi is going to emerge as we go on because I've been exposed to it over the years. It's a really beautiful language, as you can tell from watching this season. Really enjoyed episode 1 and did enjoy episodes 2 and 3. We'll get into it. There were highs and lows, but I thought they were very entertaining. The cast is delivering for sure. Yeah, quite keen to kind of get into this and see where we go.
Yeah, we're covering quite a lot in this episode. Like I said, we're going to talk about episodes 2 and 3 together. And so we may as well dive right in. To remind ourselves from episode 1, we had 3 traitors initially chosen. We had Aditya or Kulu, Crystal, of course, handsome Harmon, and they then chose, but they were about to choose a fourth traitor, and they had the decision to make beyond that about a murder. That's where we left off. That's we are. We're sort of beginning episode 2 there. Of course, like usual, we actually move forward a little bit. We're at breakfast the next day. We're going to have to wait and find out what happened at the end of the secret tower last night. Boo awaits in her throne as she is awaiting with you right now, MaJiKer. Munawar and Rita arrive first, and of course they had shields from the mission yesterday, so that's not particularly surprising. They arrive with Shweta, which makes Munawar immediately a bit suspicious. He's wondering, the 2 shield holders are here with you. You didn't have a shield. Is something going on? He's always on alert. He's always in game mode. We talked about this in episode 1. I wonder what you think. Is this a good thing or a bad thing to always be on high alert in the traitors and to constantly be questioning every single thing that happens around you? Can that become too much?
Well, it's going to go one way or the other, isn't it? Either you are a pretty chaotic faithful and then you stay in because you're chaotic and the traitors have no reason to murder you. Or, well, let's see how it plays out for him.
Yes, let's see what happens to Manawa. They take a while to notice Boo. I have to say, I was quite unimpressed that it did take them a couple of minutes to notice Boo sitting
Mm,
there. Next group arrives, including our first traitor, Aditya. I don't know whether to call him Aditya or Kulu. The players seem to be referring to him as Kulu, so
yeah.
I'll probably try and do that from now on. And he's finding this breakfast experience really tricky. He's constantly having to check what he's saying and make sure that he's, of course, not revealing anything. So it's not incredibly easy for him. I don't think it feels totally natural. He is worried that he's going to do the wrong thing. Shalini arrives in the next group looking incredible. She she gets quite a bit of screen time, which is interesting now that I have seen both episodes 2 and 3. I thought I don't know. I thought she was going to play more of a part in these episodes. I just thought she's getting an awful lot of attention here in the edit. Something really important's going to happen. But now that I think back, I don't think she does play a huge part in any of the big events that play out. But hey, she looks amazing. They all do, of course. Other players are talking about Karan, the mentalist, and they are worried that the traitors will see him as a threat. And Kulu, who was worrying about what he would say, does kind of put his foot in it a little bit. He says, "Oh, well, I don't want to kill him." And Presh is sitting beside him and says, "What do you mean you don't want to kill?" And they just sort of laugh it off. I don't think it will be of any consequence, but isn't it funny that this happens in almost every season of the Traitors? Someone at some
Mm.
point just says the wrong thing. They say innocent instead of traitor, or they say they're going off to the conclave when actually they meant to say, I'm going off to bed now.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depends on who it is, it depends on the circumstances. Sometimes it's laughed off, or no one even pays attention.
Yeah.
Sometimes it becomes a huge deal and people cling on to it. It seems like Kulu just sort of gets away with it here because he was with his
Yeah.
pal.
And often it's actually the pronoun that slips that makes them slip up. Either, say in a recent season, we we should do this. Sorry, they should do this.
Yeah.
That's a common one. But in this case, I think if you say I don't want to kill him, it's kind of like what you're saying is one doesn't want to kill him. Like, I mean, if I were, I wouldn't want to,
Yeah.
as opposed to I don't want to. Again, it's just the verbs and the pronouns and stuff. And in this game where there's nothing to go on, you have to be so careful.
Yeah, and I reckon most of the time, I reckon probably most players make a little mistake sometimes, and most of the
Hmm.
time it is, no pun intended, totally innocent. But hey, the conversation turns to Sahil, and everyone universally seems to want him to at least make it back. They don't want him to be murdered again and have a repeat of season 1. Handsome Harmon arrives next. He's with fellow traitor Crystal. What a beautiful pair of traitors, I have to say. I know I did this a lot in episode 1. They're just very attractive people, and I just can't help but mention it. They have lots of other wonderful qualities too. And the numbers in the room are growing, which means that there's less and less chance of poor Sahil coming back, and there's very much a focus still on him and whether he's going to return. Knock knock at the door. Even more players. Sundus, Abhishek, Ria. Still no Sahil. There only are 3 players left to arrive. Tanya, Sahil, Karan are not here, and we get a little bit of sage wisdom from Harmon. Harmon says that you have to be like water, from the famous philosopher Bruce Lee. And so I liked that piece of advice that you have to be. I think he
Hmm.
meant you have to be, fluid and malleable and adaptable, and you have to be able to shift your game depending on what's going on.
Well, Harmon is an intellectual and a thinker because he did a TED talk, which I tried to watch, but it was mainly in Hindi, so I couldn't do so. And the image quality wasn't really worthwhile me zooming in to focus on his other main quality as well as his wisdom, his visual, enchantment as well as his verbal enchantment. Um, I'm sure there'll be many other opportunities, and hopefully this season will be. Oh, hang on a minute. Let's see how that. Let's see how that plays out.
I can't wait to see him in the finale.
Yeah.
So it's time for our double reveal. They edit this in a very clever way that really actually wrong-footed me as I was watching. We get a letter waiting on one of the interview chairs. We've also got footsteps approaching the breakfast room. Someone is knocking at the glass door, and Tanya walks in. And so I kind of forgot that Karan also hasn't come back. So at this point, I thought, no, no, really have
Mm.
murdered Sahil. And when we then see Sahel sit down and he's got a letter and he has to open it, and I thought, no, I can't believe they've done this. However, he reads his letter aloud and it says, Dear player, the traitors have decided you are safe from the wrath of the traitors. Very well done of them. They've
Yeah,
obviously thought this is going to be a talking point. Will Sahel be murdered again? Let's give him his own letter just to build up that sense of
yeah.
anticipation. And it worked on me. Sahel is so relieved. He's saying, "Oh, thank God! Like, why are you doing this to me? Do you want me to have a heart attack?" We cut back to breakfast. He returns. They go wild.
I
Hooray!
think this might have been where there was a bear hug for the ages, shall we say, between Sahil and Harmon, which,
Yes.
may many scores of fanfic pieces be written about that bear hug between these two players of the game.
Is that going to be the first piece written on your Substack? Your
On my
fanfic?
Substack, I'm going to start with some fanfic. Yeah, exactly. When they embraced each other in relief, they could sense that something was afoot beyond the game. That's the start of my. Maybe I shouldn't write fanfic. In fact, you've convinced
Oh,
me not to write
okay.
my fanfic. Yeah.
I
Uh,
would like a separate Substack just for me then to
Okay.
experience that. Thank you very
Fair
much.
enough.
I think there'll be demand. Anyway, as they all celebrate, they realize what has happened, which is Karan has been murdered, and they all seem to get immediately the reason why, and it's the reason you and I spoke about on the episode 1 podcast. He was a threat. He you know, presented himself as a mentalist, a mind reader. He was already doing tricks in the palace. And even if players don't believe that he could suss out the traitors for real, there's the very likely possibility that if he does bring up a name at the Circle of Shack, lots of the players will just go along with it. He will be seen as someone quite trustworthy. And, well, if lots of people have got different theories, we might as well go with the mind reader. Traitors are very likely to not want that to happen in case he suggests one of their names.
Yeah, and I mean, wasn't he going really hard for Crystal as
Yeah,
well? He
yeah,
did
that's
like a
right.
full interrogation, like real interrogation, not just asking a few questions, but trying to say, when did your heart rate go up? When did it settle? How long did it take? Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, I always feel bad for the players who are murdered early, but in this case, I'm like, mate, I don't think you're going to be scratching your head saying, what did I possibly do wrong to get myself murdered? You did everything you possibly could to get yourself murdered.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
yeah. And even if he hadn't named Crystal, which he did, the traitors also might have just thought he's too independent. He's just going to do
Mm,
his own thing. He's very
yeah,
clever. He seems confident. He's not someone that we're going to be able to sway and manipulate. So that's no use to our game.
yeah.
We see Karan receiving his letter, and he says he expected it. He's like, "Well, yeah, I'm a threat." I thought, well, first of all, I thought, well, you are a threat, maybe not for the exact reasons you suspect,
Mhm.
but moreover, I reckoned if you think this is obvious, why were you doing mind reading tricks in front of everybody? Why were you
Yeah,
playing up how great of a mentalist you were and asking all these really probing questions? I think he dug his own grave.
yeah.
Um, Sadly,
I just
maybe
hope
they'll bring him
maybe
back.
maybe, and I just hope he gets a bit of work off it. I suspect he's probably like, I've got this platform, he'll be able to hopefully raise his fee after this. So,
Yeah, he
because it will say as appeared on the traitors very briefly.
yeah, as appeared on the Traitors and was murdered because his mentalist powers were so
Yeah,
threatening, and people will
brilliant.
go, "Oh, we have to go see this guy." We cut to something else very interesting right after this. We cut to Chanel and her Mev, her interview, and she's reflecting on what's just happened. Oh, Karan's been murdered. He would have been such a great help to the innocents, and then reveals, and that's exactly why I killed him. Oops.
Yes.
I'm laughing at my own joke as soon as she said oops. It was giving Britney Spears. Oops, she's done it again, except not again. It's only the first time because she's a traitor. That's what's going on. It's her reveal.
Yeah.
Chanel is her fourth traitor. And I think I was surprised because her name wasn't mentioned last night in the conversation
Mhm.
about who to recruit. So I like that nice little twist. Not one of the names that we thought it might be.
Yeah.
How devious of Chenille, and we get a flashback to her arriving to take her traitor oath with Karan and collect her cloak, and we get another reveal. She enters the secret tower and meets the other three, and they all celebrate. Hooray! And very immediately we then see them discussing Karan and why they might want to kill him, and Chenille's on board. Yes, good idea. The deal
Hmm.
is done. I hadn't I don't know if she got that much screen time in episode one, so I don't feel like I had gotten to know that much about her.
Mm.
I'm sort of jumping ahead, but over episodes two and three, do you think Chenille has been a good choice for their fourth traitor?
Yeah, she's kind of just blended straight in, isn't she? And because there's four traitors, it's hard to see them all in action, really. I must admit, I didn't pay. I think because she wasn't one of the original picks, I kept forgetting she was a traitor, so I wasn't paying that much attention to her. So we'll have to see how it plays out. And in terms of musical picks, that wasn't the particular piece of music that I thought you were going to play.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Uh,
I know it's not a
it-
conventional process, Matthew, but maybe someone has been recruited. They were recruited. It was announced at the Circle of Shack that someone was going to be recruited, but maybe someone has been recruited now.
Are you I'm stalling for time. Are you suggesting you might have wanted to hear something like this?
Maybe someone's been recruited. Recruited.
We have our first recruitment. Is it a recruitment? Does it
Yeah,
count as a recruitment? Okay. I mean, did she have a choice? I don't know. It's an excuse to play our jingle. So,
I think she's been recruited because I think she wasn't a traitor, and then it happened very fast, obviously, but she was invited, but she was recruited by the other traitors. So I think that's the thing: is it whether it's production slash the host who's choosing the traitors, or whether she has been recruited by the other traitors. That's
okay.
a recruitment. Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Listeners, if you have no idea what the hell you've just heard, that means you probably haven't watched Celebrity Traitors Season 1, UK Season 1. I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to leave it as a mystery.
No, the only clue I would give you is that what you've just heard is the vocal talents of a woman who spilt vanilla latte all over mixing desk when she was doing DJ in a radio station. And I know that because I watched a TV program called Would I Lie to You last night, and it was her lie, and it turns out it was true. And they had footage of her spilling her latte all over this mixing desk and then tried to mop it up with one napkin and saying, "Oh, that'll probably do." They got back to her and said, "Yeah, you've actually destroyed the whole thing." So, yes,
Wow. Okay. Well done, Kate.
this is the kind of analysis that you come to this podcast for, giving you details of something that someone did on another season of The Traitors. But we are going to get into these players as well. Trust me.
We will, we promise. In fact, we're back at breakfast. Host Karan meets the players. See, now I don't need to differentiate between host Karan and player Karan because one of them's gone, so it makes it a whole lot easier. Funnily enough, that happened in the most recent season of Traitors Quebec, that someone was named after
Hmm.
the host. Same name, not named after the host, shared a name with the host, but went home quite quickly. Anyway, rise and shine. It is Doka time. He says, "Hello, Boo, and the rest of you." And I thought, is he rhyming everything as he goes on? I don't. I did hear a little bit of rhyming. He says something, something stressed, something, something next, something. I know there was a bit of sort of Shakespearean. There was some sort of he was trying to build up some sort of meter at least. I felt like
maybe
it was a
he's
bit poetic.
maybe he watched the Eurovision Song Contest 2001, where they tried to host the entire thing in rhyming couplets. And just before they went to
Oh
the
God,
voting, they said, "Here we go, we're in it together, fans. Now we are going to call the Netherlands."
ruined
So
it.
It
Not a couplet?
absolutely ruined it. So Karan, we love you. You are an icon. Maybe just like cut down on the rhyming just a little bit.
Okay. I mean, I quite liked Hello Boo and the rest of you. Anyway, maybe it was a coincidence. The portrait is taken from the wall. And he says, "You want to see a magic trick?" Bam! Down goes the portrait. We love it. He gives them a little bit of a chat and reveals a clue for the mission today. He says, "This season there will be many unexpected explosions. Power up today. The first explosion will happen soon." Maybe there's going to be some sort of explosion, perhaps. I don't. That's just a wild guess. I don't know. He's about to leave, then stops on the way out to remind them, "Oh, by the way, the traitor's pick is complete." And then drops his new catchphrase, apparently, which you referred to last time. Bye, just don't die. I'm enjoying that one. So now they're all reacting to A, Karan's death, and B, the fact that the traitor pick is complete. So they're trying to put that together and think, what does that mean? Who could it be? We get a wee moment of Harman telling us that his traitor team are doing a great job so far. He doesn't think anyone is connecting the dots and linking Karan to any of them. So this is looking good. We leave breakfast. We've got some reality time in the palace. There's there's a really interesting gathering outside. Harman really commandeers a big group of players. And I think he's rewriting history a bit here. He's getting straight to work. He knows that Karan named Crystal as one of his top suspects almost immediately after the traitor selection. But now he's telling a different story. He's saying, yeah, well, before he was murdered, Karan was really keen on Parul and Munawar. Doesn't mention Crystal. He just sort of conveniently leaves her out. And no one seems to contradict him. Everybody listening's like, yes, that is who he named. You're right. This is what a tall this is what happens when a tall, hot man speaks. People just nod and go, okay,
Mm.
what I mean say they're quite happy to agree with it. Meanwhile, Manawar has his own plan of defense. He wants to create this narrative. Spoiler alert, it ends up not working. He wants to create a narrative that the traitors are just dumb. So he just keeps going around saying, "Oh man, these traitors, they're so dumb. We need to find the dumb people." He's pretending that um, the traitors actually thought Karan was a mind reader, and so that's why they killed him. Or um, he also says they're trying to make um, the traitors feel like sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. If he keeps saying it's dumb people, oh, these traitors are so dumb, the actual traitors won't want to be called dumb, and maybe they'll expose themselves. I don't know, and be like, I'm not dumb. I'm not really sure if it's a great plan, but
I think I mean, I'm not sure if it's a great plan, but I think it's interesting. It's interesting to go up to, if you're trying to provoke a reaction, to go up and just like sidle up to a couple of them. You think one of them might be a traitor and say, the traitors are dumb. And then just look at their reaction. Because
I guess so.
if you think about it, if they're faithful, they might go, dumb, really? You know, they'd get stuck in. Whereas if they're a traitor, they go, oh yes, yeah, oh yeah, really dumb. You know, it's immediately, it's like calling them out. I
I
don't know
guess,
if it's
yeah.
a good idea, but I think it's a very interesting provocation.
Yeah, I guess at this point, if someone like Munawar has probably watched The Traitors and knows how it works, so maybe, yeah, it's like a different way to just try and catch someone out. Just,
Mm.
like you said, just provoke them, see if there's some sort of reaction. Okay, I take it back. I was a bit harsh on Munawar there. Outside, we see Sundus, and Sundus is asking Malika, along with a group of others, who she thinks the traitors are, and Malika is just kind of like she was in episode one. She's like, "Oh, I don't know. Not sure. We don't have any clues yet. I just want to keep watching people. It's too soon to have any suspects. And it probably is too soon to have any real suspects, but that just doesn't go down well. I think you can't say that to other players who already all have their own names that they're calling out. And the other players here right now are not buying it, especially not Rita. And Rita echoes what a couple of people said in episode one, that Malika is maybe playing a bit dumber than she really is. Malika then leaves. Conversation returns to Munawar. Prish, Sundus, and Rita are talking about how they would totally murder him first. They're like, we all know him. He plays these reality games. He won Big Boss. He won Locked Up. If I was a traitor, I would get rid of him. They don't understand why that didn't happen. Prish even says in confessional in Miv that he just wants Manawar out of the game, even if he's not a traitor. Like he just doesn't want him here manipulating things and having the game go his own way. There's quite a lot of gathering heat surrounding Manawar. He thinks he's doing a great job of talking to everyone and getting them on his good side and figuring out the lay of the land. But most of the players are talking about him and noticing that he is trying too hard to be too sociable and he's trying to lead everybody. In fact, a little group forms um, and form this conspiracy. It ends up throughout the next couple of episodes. They refer to it as a surgical strike. That's this term that is sort of born and it catches on. They decide they are actively going to band together and target Manawar. So Abhishek and Shrida Prish, they try and get MaJiKer and Harman on board as well. Harman is wearing a vest at this point. I don't know why. It's just in my notes. I just read what's in my notes, MaJiKer. I don't
Yeah.
know why I say these things. Harman even shakes hands on it. He's like, yes, okay, if you want to go for Manawar, I'm in, let's go for it. So maybe he is. Um, and actually, Manawar, there is a point in his Miv that he recognizes he probably will get a lot of attention at the Circle of Shack. I don't know if he realizes how much attention he's going to get. We shall see. Time for the mission. We don't really get any content in the cars. We're just suddenly there. The players arrive in the desert to meet Karan and these two huge cannons. There is another 12 lakh rupees available to add to the prize pot, same as in mission one. They have to split into two teams. We need a 9 and a 10. There's a bit of complaining about who they're in teams with. Some of the guys are like, man, I'm stuck with these women, which is mean. And also, there's women on both teams. I don't think either team's that disadvantaged. They have to push these giant cannons towards the finish line, but stop along the way to collect gunpowder and gold bars. They'll then have to get to the end, fire the cannon at a big giant shield, and anyone part of the team at the end firing the cannon will win a shield, which immediately makes me predict what kind of mission this is going to be. We can't have a whole team getting to the end and getting a shield. We can't have 10 people getting a shield. Something is going to have to happen to narrow down those numbers. And yes, they soon find out after they begin that at each of the stops, they'll have to sacrifice some players. This is not a new type of mission. We've seen it in various different versions of the show, this idea of giving up players to progress to the end. Off they go. There's not too much to talk about. It's quite a physical mission. There's not much strategy except deciding who you want to leave behind from your team. Um, Blue team very early on go way off course and almost ram into a big giant block, which is quite funny. Red team shoot ahead. They start sacrificing players, and this interesting things like something happens that if you've watched other versions of the show, particularly New Zealand and Australia, I don't think that's a spoiler. It's one of these missions that has this inbuilt unfairness, perhaps. And the players here talk about it, the players in other seasons have referenced it. You end up with a lot of the women sacrificing themselves or being made or sort of encouraged to give themselves up because it's quite a physical task and it relies on strength. Generally, the male players think they'll be better at this, they're going to do a better job, they'll be faster. And so a lot of the female players are the ones that just have to not end up getting a shield. Um, does that feel unfair to you or
Yeah. Yes, it really does. And I think it would have been a really easy fix. Either not make it so physical or have in previous like kind of other versions of this mission, they've had someone who has to be riding. So they're actually not pushing, they're actually just
yeah?
riding the thing. So that could be anyone. It could even be someone who's disabled in some way, that would be quite nice to include people of different abilities.
Hmm.
Um, but also a very easy fix I was thinking about is then you get to the end and they go, great, fantastic. Two of you need to go back there and swap out.
Yeah.
Just done. And then
Yeah.
then it's not just all the big burly men or very sporty women who get to do it. You can go back and say, okay, well, you were the first to sacrifice yourself, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to do that. And again, it just creates more tension. That's a very simple fix. I think it's really, really unfair. Again, and just very kind of ableist as well. It's like we all have different abilities and levels of fitness. Like it's the physical tasks are, yeah, they need to think again about this.
Yeah. If I do actually agree, if I was going to play devil's advocate, might I say, well then, if it's a task that relies on logic and problem solving, that's not fair on some players. No, it's clever. That's a terrible argument, and I don't believe that argument, but I'm just I'm just acknowledging that maybe some listeners might feel that way, okay? But yeah, I do find this really unfair. And the evidence is sort of presents itself that
Mhm.
anytime I've seen a mission very like this, it has always ended up with mostly men, if not all men, getting to the end and
Yeah.
getting shields. So there's something just doesn't work there.
I mean, the simplest twist of all, again, if you want a twisty turny season, maybe we'll get there in a few seasons' time of all of the franchises. Is that, they say, oh, we've seen this before. Oh, I'll sacrifice myself. Oh, here we go. Here's the men again. And then you get to the end, and it's literally like, okay, so this game doesn't reward people who push others out the way, or I don't know. The host could say, have a little spiel and say, those who sacrifice should be rewarded, and everyone who's tied to a post gets a shield, and everyone who.
Yeah,
Da-da! Tricks
yeah,
you. What are you rewarding? Are you rewarding the brawn and the physical strength, or are you rewarding the team spirit and stepping aside? That could be a choice.
yeah. And although that seems like, oh, well, then you've lied to the players about how to play the game. You could just be very clever with words. Karan could say
Yeah.
something like, at the end, the
Sacrifice. Yeah.
strongest players
Yeah.
will receive shields. And
Yeah.
then realize when I said strongest, I meant strongest in terms of their
Yeah.
moral courage and
Well,
something
I
like
mean,
that.
there's so many ways you could do it. You could say, two players will have to be tied to this post. You have to decide who's going to get a shield. Tie two players to this post.
Yeah, yeah,
And it says
exactly.
that would be such a great twist. I think I'm
Yeah,
back and said, you did decide who's going to get the shield. Everyone who sacrificed themselves gets one. Yeah.
agreed.
Hey,
That would be much more
producers,
fun.
write to us. This guy actually works in TV. He actually works in format development. Get him on the phone. Have a Zoom with him. He's going to spice up the format and the games a little bit.
Quite right. Although really it was your suggestion that I'm stealing, so I'll give you
You're
some
welcome to
credit
it.
at it. So as the mission goes on, it looks like the red team are about to storm to victory until they smash right into the pillar that probably the production team were watching going, oh my God, they've just smashed it apart. And they jam one of the poles right into it. It's crazy. They have to fix it. Blue team are totally going off course again. It's fine. Eventually, the remaining members of the red team make it to the end point, light the cannon, kaboom! Fire the big shield. It's pretty cool. Looks good. Uh, you know, I know that one team was absolutely going to win this mission, but I reckon any time in the Traitors, there's a mission that has a big visual spectacle awaiting at the end. There's not a chance that someone's not going to win it. Like I know in this case, yeah, it's just whatever team reached in. Sometimes they have missions, and we'll probably get one of them in this season of the Traitors. There's a mission where everybody's working together, and if they make it to the end, we'll get a big explosion, or we'll get fire, or we'll have fireworks go off. If production have spent all that money building this really cool set for a mission, they're probably going to want to use it and show it off on TV. So
Mhm.
we get the outcome that we expected. So the four men who win the shields are Aditya or Kulu for the second time, Abhishek, Ansh, and Ranveer, and they've won 10 lakh rupees too. Hooray! Karan sends them back to the palace before their first circle of shack. Back at the palace, I've realised there's just a little sort of bit of B-roll to establish we're back at the palace now, and I noticed an interesting connection between the Scottish castle that they use for UK and US traders and our palace here in India. Uh, any idea what I might be referring to, MaJiKer? I mean, I'm asking a really
Peacocks.
difficult question. Yes, it's peacocks.
I seem to remember. Caw, caw, caw. Oh, Boo's not happy. Boo's shaking
Oh,
a little bit.
Boo
She's like,
doesn't
she's
like.
like, I'm going to get the peacocks. Meow. That's what she's saying. Yeah.
That was a very good cat impression. You're right. They have beautiful peacocks in the palace. And what a nice little accidental link between the seasons.
Mhm.
So in the palace, there are various names being discussed, of course, by the players. These, like we've said last time, these players are in it to win it. They're taking it seriously. They know how it works. They are constantly preparing themselves for the Circle of Shack. Munawar is still at hard work spreading names around himself. He's mainly throwing out Rita's name and Ansh's name. I'm not really sure why. I don't know what his justification is. And in reverse to that, Rita shares her intention to vote Manawar. She's talking to Sundus. Sundus is totally shocked by this. She's like, oh, Manawar? What? Why? Ria's on to Tanya. She thinks Tanya's following her around everywhere and watching her moves. Chanel then tells Manawar that she suspects Tanya and Abhishek. Like, just names flying left, right, and centre. And there's a little moment here. I generally think Chanel is doing a very good job as a traitor. But I did think there was a moment here when Manawar just asks her outright, "Are you a traitor?" And I think she was a little bit caught off guard, and she sort of like laughs in a really embarrassed, sort of guilty way, and is like, What? Are you? Am I a traitor? No, of course not." I think he just caught her off guard a wee bit. Now it won't really matter because, again, spoiler alert, Manawar is not going to be around for all that much longer to be able to tell anyone about this. We see Harman and Abhishek preparing themselves to, again, they're going to come from Manawar tonight at Circle of Shack. They're a wee bit worried that the woman who said they were going to vote for him won't go through with it and they'll back down. We'll have to find out. It is time for Circle of Shack. We've been in the room before for the traitor selection, but this is our first banishment, so I'm very excited to see how it's going to play out. Of course, the players arrive in dramatic fashion. They come in one by one. They take their place at their seats. There are several names being discussed as we're coming in. We've got Manawa, Rita, Tanya, Ansh, Parul. One or two people have mentioned. So I wasn't totally sure how this was going. I thought Manawa was probably in trouble, but I, I I wasn't. I didn't have a really good idea of who was about to be banished at this point, which I like. I like to not be so guided through the episode that everything is signposted. I still want a bit of surprise,
Yeah.
reasonable surprise. Karan, of course, does his usual introduction, tries to get them in the zone, makes them feel as tense as possible for this first banishment. And there are lots of close ups of players looking very worried and anxious. And Karan says, "The Circle of Shaq is all yours. Who'd like to start?" Ria begins. Ria's a very confident player. She just immediately comes right out and says, "I feel like it's Tanya." Oh, like, there's no beating about the bush. Ria's right in there. She says she thinks Tanya's behavior has changed, and again talks about Tanya shadowing her. She's always there. She's always following me. Something's going on. I think she's worried about what I'm going to say about her. Crystal comes for Tanya too. Crystal, of course, we know is a traitor. She, she, I couldn't quite. I think there was something missing from the edit here. Crystal is referring to something that I think we didn't see, so it's a little bit tricky to follow. She's talking about the letter that she says Tanya received a letter this morning. And I get the feeling that, Sahil got a letter just to say, "You've been saved." I think Tanya received a letter like that as well, but we
Mm.
just didn't see it because
Oh.
that's kind of not as exciting. Like Sahil was the one that they wanted to trick us with.
Hmm.
So Crystal's saying, "Tanya, you said one thing about the letter, but then you said it differently, and you said something different to someone else." And so there's a bit of confusion here. Um, and yeah, she claims that Tanya changed her story. So there's something. Now, obviously, Crystal's a traitor and she's pretending, but to the other players, that might seem like quite a convincing argument. Tanya, she tries to defend herself here, but she doesn't get much to say. She's sort of interrupted, and people just start talking over her. I'm quite surprised by Tanya. Last time I was saying I was really fascinated by her. She's this detective. She's the CEO of a private detective agency, and she's India's youngest private investigator. So far, she seems very. She did say that. She did say she thought she wanted to play in quite a reserved manner. She didn't want people to see what she was thinking, but I thought she'd be a bit more outspoken and ready to defend herself. Maybe she was just taken aback. Maybe she just didn't know people were going to come right for her at this Circle of Shack. I don't know.
Yeah, and also there is this narrative over these couple of episodes that there are a couple of outsiders, and she's really one of them. Oh, I think Magic, the magician, the mentalist was another one. That's really difficult. I think that's really hard because they do kind of know each other. Some of them know each other really well, or they bonded very fast, or they have the same job. And she really is on the outside. So I think that might be one of the reasons why she's a little
Mm.
bit defensive and doesn't quite seem to be in it properly.
Yeah, it's a disadvantage or even a flaw of the celebrity cast versions.
Mm,
And while we are both enjoying this and we like this cast, quite often that does happen, particularly with the US celebrity version. A lot of the players know each other because they've been on the same franchises and they're in the
mhm,
same worlds as one another. And sometimes you just get someone who's an actor that nobody knows, or a sports person that nobody knows, or they have a famous relative, but nobody really knows them, and they just immediately end up as an outsider, someone who it's easy to vote for early on because you don't feel that bad about it. So
mm,
yeah, maybe that's what Tanya is suffering from. Uh, they move on to talk about Karan, who's been murdered, MaJiKer, and how he apparently named Manawa, Malika, and Parul. I think this is yeah, Harmon. Harmon is talking here. Again, he's rewriting the fact that Karan also mentioned Crystal, and he's saying we shouldn't vote based on personality. We have to vote based on some sort of evidence. So let's just focus on what we know. We know that MaJiKer named these people before he was murdered. Munawar takes the chance to then just totally come for Malika, and he's talking about how she behaved at the traitor selection and the way that she had this poker face and so on, and she's not really been involved in the game, and he's surprised she hasn't done her homework. This is supposed to, well, I was really shocked I'm here. He's like, this is supposed to be a big comeback for you. And the more he says, the more uncomfortable I feel that I guess he doesn't mean it. Like maybe he doesn't realize how badly it might be
mm.
coming across. Maybe it's just the difference between him, a young, funny guy who's got a big following online, and someone who's a little bit older like Malika. But he's like, yeah, this was supposed to be your comeback, and you're not treating it that seriously. And I think some
Yeah.
of the others are like, oh my God, Manawar, you can't say that to
Well,
her.
I think this becomes comeback gate.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah, the more he says, he just keeps saying things like, you. He says you once had a tsunami of stardom, but not so much now. Like, Mawar, stop it! Stop saying these things. Malika replies and says, "Look, I'm too loud and obvious to be a traitor." It's like what she said in episode one. The
Hmm.
traitors are quiet, sort of surreptitious, sneaky people, and they just stay in the background. That's not me. I'm far too fabulous to be a traitor. And, but then Shweta jumps in and has this argument as well with Malika. She's like, I don't. From what I've gathered, Malika must have been living in Paris, um, and has now come back to be in the show. And
Hmm.
Shweta's saying, I don't understand why you left Paris to come back here and do this. Yet you don't seem that invested in the game. It's it's weird to hear these arguments about it, about things external to the game. Like people
Mm.
saying, I know that you were in Paris. Why have you come back here to do this show? It's sort of it's just weird. It feels like, oh, you're talking about stuff that not all the players will understand, and I don't understand as a viewer.
Yeah. It's got very personal actually, and that's the only thing that I'm just going to keep an eye on in this season is that because some of them know each other, and I think probably particularly the Bollywood circle is quite, quite intimate. I'm sure they've a lot of them have worked together. Um, I don't like this. I don't like saying, ah, well, because you were doing this before you got here, therefore, that's not on. That's making it really personal.
Yeah. And the pylon sort of just keeps building. Parul joins in too
Mm,
and says, Malika, you've been really resistant to name any suspects. You were telling us earlier that it's too soon. You don't know what you think about anyone. You don't know who the traitors are. It just keeps getting worse. Sondus confronts Malika as well. The volume just rises. The tempers are flaring throughout this whole interaction. uh, Sondus is annoyed at how uh, apparently Malika kept asking Sondus loads of questions about how the game even worked. Just kept asking, like, and when
mm,
does this happen? And how do the traitors merge? How do you get eliminated? There's even a bit of, I can't remember exactly what leads up to Sondus just saying, let me finish. And Malika's like, I was just joking. I wasn't really asking those questions. And Sondus is saying, that wasn't a joke. You weren't joking. You really didn't understand this game. It's very intense.
mm.
And Sundus is demanding that MaJiKer gives a name. Who are you going to vote for then? Come on, tell us. Eventually, we sort of move on. MaJiKer just feels pressured into saying someone, and she's like, well, fine, I'm going to vote for Manawar. Like you alluded to, maybe as a little bit of like, well, he's just said this really horrible thing about me, so Manawar, I'm just going to vote for you. Everyone around the table is like, oh, what? And she says, well, he's playing a double game. He's talking to too many people about too many different ideas, and he's trying to be everybody's best friend. Ansh agrees with this. Abhishek agrees with this. He says, yeah, I've noticed Manawar is manipulating people and naming random people and all this. On it goes. Aditya, or Traitor, jumps in to take the chance to come from Manawar as well. And I think they are actually pals and get on really well, but Kulu is in the game. He wants to do well as a traitor, so he's going to throw his pal under the bus. It just becomes quite chaotic. Munawar is trying to defend himself. Parul's also trying to defend him, and MaJiKer just keeps digging in because she doesn't want any votes for hers, and she wants to throw them back on someone else. Even Harman is pressing on Munawar. Very heated, very intense. Karan arrives in the middle of all this madness to end the discussion. It's time to vote, our first vote. Eka begins and votes for Ranveer, which at the time I was very surprised at. And I thought, oh, that's random. Or was anyone talking about Ranveer? Now that we've seen episode 3, I get that a bit more. This becomes more important. Crystal votes for Tanya. Prish votes, which is interesting. So Crystal's a traitor. She votes for Tanya. We should keep that in mind. Prish is next. Votes for Manawar. So does Abhishek. So does Shalini. Although I noticed on Shalini's slate, it looked like she had written MaJiKer and changed it, and rubbed it
Yeah.
out, went for Manawar.
I have
Then we got
felt this in, but it hasn't been, it's been a while, it's been a long time, but I have felt that that should be illegal in the game.
yeah,
I
ooh.
don't think you should be able to write someone's name, cross it out, have it still visible, and then write someone else's, because that's effectively giving two pieces of information at the round table. I think that's cheating.
Uh,
Because what I tell you why, Matthew,
well,
because what if there was a second vote? You're already saying, if it ended up being a tie between this and someone, you're giving two pieces of information on your vote. I think that's cheating.
well, I know what you mean. But if you call it cheating, does that implies that the person who's done it is actively trying to do something unfair? I don't
I
know if
think
Shalini. I thought for her it was just probably a she wouldn't
no,
have
but
thought twice about that.
probably, but I think it should be in the rules. I think we've been saying this for a long time. I
Hmm.
think they should crack down on what is written on those slates. Really, even like little hearts and little, and then sometimes people have underlined it 3 times, and you're like, oh, so you're trying to tell me if we vote you out and you're a traitor, you know what I mean? It's too much.
Yeah,
I think you
yeah, yeah.
should just, do like the weakest link and just press a button. But okay with the slates. But yeah, just I think the rule should be don't write anything else. Don't write, sorry, thanks for love
Hmm.
you. Like, no, write a name. That's it.
Yeah, I think you're right. For production, they probably ought to tell them, while you're writing your name, if you have a change of heart, that's fine before the
Rub it
reveal,
out.
but you have to make it completely
Yeah.
invisible. We cannot have any people cannot be able to figure out any other names that you were thinking about writing down.
Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, we've got a couple of votes for MaJiKer, Tanya, and Parul. Ranveer votes for Tanya. It's pretty split so far. Votes going to 3 different people. Shanil and Harman then both vote for Munawar, and we know that these are 2 traitors voting for Munawar. Munawar himself votes for MaJiKer, which is not surprising. Shweta votes for Tanya. It's still quite split. Munawar has 5, MaJiKer and Tanya have 3. Then Rita comes next and votes for Munawar, which is not that surprising. She's been talking about him during the day. And as these votes now are coming in, we get lots of shots of Munawar just looking more and more worked up and really getting mad that this is happening and he is likely to be banished. Ansh also votes for him. Ria votes for Tanya. Sundus votes for Manawar. I don't think he can escape now. I think that it's sort of past the point of return. And in fact, the final 3 players then go ahead and all vote for him, including Kulu or Traitor, Sahil, MaJiKer. They all vote for Manawar. He's banished, stands to give his goodbye speech, and he says, I expected this to happen to me. I knew I'd have to face it. This often happens to me. And he says he then gets really annoyed. He says, I can clearly see through people's insecurities. And he does get a bit personal because he's personally upset that this has happened. Like, I can understand. He says, you approached me as a friend and heard me out, but then you came in here and you wrote my name. Thank you for that. Ouch. Karan asks the question, are you a traitor or an innocent? Manawar very eruditely says, fuck off, guys. I was playing the game well. I wanted to play it well. I am an innocent. And even as he leaves, he's still going. He says, fuck off, you insecure bunch of people. He's yelling, they can hear him. He's off the set and he's still going. It's giving Drag Race. It's giving like really annoyed queen who's just been eliminated.
I mean,
And
are we going to need Traitors India untucked? That's the question. I
I think
don't,
that's what we
I
need.
don't, I don't know what they'd be untucking. The capes. They would be untucking a cape. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Uh, in fact, they could do what they do have a nice thing in the little Canadian after show is they get to paint their own crosses onto their
Yeah.
portrait. I think that's a nice touch. I like it. Um, Manawar might just be writing "fuck off" in red letters. Like, Manawar, stop it! You can't do that. And so, of course, Karan, host. I don't need to say that now. Yes, just Karan. Okay. He's chastising the players and reminding them that tonight someone else will be murdered. Um, however, some of the players have the shields from the mission. That was Kulu, Abhishek, Ranveer, and Ansh, and leaves them with a bye, don't die. The table arguments continue because of what's just happened. Harman is trying to pretend, oh, he's still mad at Manawar. Well, it's his own fault, man. He behaved in a way that made us vote for him. Shweta is really furious that they've just lost an innocent. And Abhishek in Miv is really bigging himself up and saying, he's sort of like, haha, well, Manawar's gone. This game's only big enough for one of us. Crystal's mad as well, but she's mad for a different reason. She's mad because she's a traitor and her fellow traitors voted differently. She voted for Tanya. She didn't know that there was this big plan to get Manawar out tonight. I I I was a bit confused. I don't know why she was so bothered. Like I don't think it's made her. I guess she's just bothered that it looks like those three all did the same thing. So she thinks, oh, you three got together and talked about this. Why wasn't I included? I
Hmm.
suppose that's why she's annoyed. I don't think the vote itself makes her look bad. Several other people voted for Tanya. But yeah, maybe it's just a feeling of being left out and I thought we were a team and we were all going to do the same thing. I don't think it's a bad thing for the traitors to vote differently. It actually
Hmm.
means that you can't be linked together in a really obvious way. We leave the Circle of Shack. We have a bit of time in the palace to debrief. Ria is really, she's pissed off at everybody because they just voted for Manawa, even though they didn't think he was a traitor. Some players, it was obvious. They were just voting for him because they thought he was dangerous, whether he was a traitor or an innocent. Uh, Aditya is really angry about Munawar swearing at them all upon leaving. I don't know if he's pretending to be annoyed or not. I kind of think he isn't. I think he is like really annoyed that his pal just told them all to fuck off and that they were insecure. Parul is terrified that she's going to be murdered because she's so passionate at the Circle of Shack and was defending Munawar, who they now know as an innocent. So maybe that looks Parul look like she was also an innocent. There's an interesting conversation between Ranveer and Abhishek. Ranveer is warning Abhishek. He's saying, "Don't be manipulated by others." He's saying it. Um, he's he suspects that Abhishek was manipulated by other players into voting for an innocent Manawar, and um, I he's saying to Abhishek, you shouldn't always rely on your immediate reactions to things. Don't be so reactionary. Just because somebody says a name to you and says, I'm going to vote for them tonight, I think they're a traitor. He's saying, Abhishek, maybe you should just sit with it for a while, have your own thoughts. I felt this was a valuable lesson in life, MaJiKer, to not
Hmm.
instinctively respond to things in a very emotive way, but maybe to just sit for a while. Basically, there's lots of chatter about the banishment of Manawar. On it goes, whose fault it is, who voted for him, why did you vote for him, how should you be feeling now? We get some major hot scalding tea from MaJiKer. MaJiKer's talking about Manawar and the comeback comment. And MaJiKer
Comeback
says to
gate.
comeback gate.
Mhm.
MaJiKer just says, Ria, if anyone was going to have a comeback, I thought it was a comeback for you because you just got out of jail. In fact, if I was going to play a sound effect, it might be this.
And oh,
I was taken aback. I like, holy shit, MaJiKer. And so I think that's like they had used that in some of the previews to get everyone excited for the drama of the season.
Mhm.
Parul and Ange have a big argument too. She's refusing to name any more suspects because she thinks it's gonna hurt people. If I say someone's a suspect and they end up banished, then I'll feel bad about it and it'll get me murdered. Parul's sort of very emotive. Like she's sort of very affected by everything going on. I don't know if she's built for this game. Many people aren't. I worry about how she's going to cope going forward. It's time for Secret Tower, nighttime, goodbye, everyone goes to bed. Crystal arrives and again is not happy about what's just happened. She has a go at her fellow traitors because they just voted for Manawa and she didn't know anything about it. She feels really betrayed by them. She's quite ironic because who'd have thought this is a game about betrayal? I wasn't expecting that to happen. And Aditya Kulu just takes the lead in defending it. He's insisting, no, look, we weren't ganging up on you. We weren't going behind your back. It was just safety in numbers. We could see what other people were doing. We knew it was a plan that was going ahead. We weren't leading it. You know, that this we just didn't have time to come and get you on board as well. And he also says, by the way, your name, Crystal, was being mentioned, so we were also helping to protect you. She seems appeased by that, and on they move to discussing murder. They mention a few names. They talk about Ika. They think it will make Ranveer look suspicious because Ika just voted for Ranveer. They talk about Sundus. She doubted Tanya and said that's who she was unsure about, but then voted for Manawar. So I don't know why they want to murder her for that. I think they just worry that she's unpredictable and they won't be able to gauge what way she's going to vote at roundtables or Circle of Shack. They talk about Parul. She's just had that big argument with Ange. Maybe that could frame Ange. They mention Shweta. It will point to MaJiKer. I don't know. I don't know why it'll point to MaJiKer. I didn't. Did they have an argument? Like I didn't think so. I don't know if it was because she's friends with MaJiKer and it'll look like a bluff. I'm not totally sure on that one. Shweta's an option. We don't know who they've chosen because episode 2 ends right here. We are going to power through. We're going to talk about episode 3 as well right now. Before we dive into episode 3, we're going to take a little bit of a pause, MaJiKer, because you have given us so much wise insight already. How else might people experience from your wisdom? Is there anywhere we can follow you online, MaJiKer?
yes, come and give me a follow on Substack. Links will be in the show notes, majiker.substack.com. I'll be sharing some of my experiences in music. And I'm trying to think I should talk about my collaboration with a North Indian musician because we made all kinds of interesting music together. And any Indian listeners, I know my sarigam. I can't do many different rags, but I do know sarigama sa ni da pa ma ga de sa, which is the Indian way of singing do re mi. Anyway, I'll do a post at some point when I start posting about my relationship with North Indian music. But yeah, I'll be posting about music and how it can help everyone to improve their listening, not only to music, but also to other people.
Yeah, wonderful. As for the podcast, to make sure you're up to date with everything happening in the Traitors universe, Traitors news, updates from around the world, you can follow on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Trader Podcast. And that's where you can send me questions, thoughts, observations. What do you want us to talk about when we are covering these episodes of Traitors India? What have you spotted that we haven't spotted? What have we said that is outrageous and you want to disagree with us? Share your thoughts. You can email me at thetradarpodcast@gmail.com as well. Nice thoughts, pleasant thoughts, not mean, horrible thoughts where you accuse us of needing a comeback and that we once had a tsunami of stardom and that was a long time ago. Nothing like that, please. We're in the midst of our tsunami of stardom. Uh, before we move on to episode 3, I'm asking you to retrospectively go back here a little bit, MaJiKer. At the end of episode two, what did you think about the banishment of Munawar? Were you surprised? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a different one, isn't it? It's because the circle of shack or the round table can be used in main globally can be used in two ways. To try to get out a traitor, and we've spoken at length on this podcast about whether you should bother, when you should try, when you actually absolutely shouldn't really worry about getting out a traitor, or this famous unhelpful, faithful or innocent in this case. And they clearly went for the latter. They clearly thought he is not a helpful innocent. It was like a plot to get him out and quite a conscious one.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to me that anyone really thought he was a traitor, did they? That didn't seem to be where it was
think
going. They were just like,
some of them did, but no, that wasn't
mm,
the driving force. Yeah.
yeah. An interesting one. I wonder if that's going to be a pattern that we see more and more. I think it might be. The first round tables, circles of shack, are about surviving. So don't be an annoying, faithful, or innocent. Um, because it's true, as a recent player in Australia said, we're not going to get a traitor. It's really hard. So
Yeah.
we've got to get someone. What's so interesting about that mechanic is that you've got to, I always thought that was interesting. Someone will leave. Somebody will be leaving that table.
Hmm.
So I don't want it to be me. So
Right.
what can we do to make sure it's not me?
Yes. I think I was not surprised that Manawar has been banished, but surprised that it happened this soon. I think
Hmm.
in episode one, there was so much focus on him having his reputation at being a reality gamer and winning shows like this and understanding how it works and being very skilled at the social game and all that. So, because so many players were talking about that, I got the impression he was seen as a threat and therefore it'd be difficult for him to make it all the way to the end. But yeah, I didn't think at the first circle of shack they would
Hmm.
just round up and agree, let's just get him out now. So that was a
Yeah.
bit of a surprise. And on to episode three. Here we go. We start looking at our portrait wall. Munawar and Karan have their pictures covered in red crosses. By the way, unless I'm mistaken, Dalip doesn't even have a portrait up on the wall. I sort of paused. I was having a little look to see if he had a red cross. He's actually just not even on. He didn't make the wall. I guess they're seeing it as that he didn't really officially make it into the game. He didn't sort of get to
Yeah.
that point.
And if you remember from the last episode, Dalip Sir is unbothered. He was so unbothered he didn't even pose for a photo. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Time for your pictures, everyone, for the portraits. Oh, come, Dalip, come back, come back. No, he's gone.
He's
He's off in
gone.
the
He's
car.
gone. He
Some
likes to
of
go left when everyone else goes right. He'd already left.
He'd left. There we go. Some of the bros arrive. We have Ranveer, Abhishek, and Traitor Kulu. Obviously, Boo is here waiting on her throne, as she should be. They start to make their guesses about who the next murder victim might be. Is it Sahil? Well, have they just kept him one day and he'll go on the second option? Maybe it's Tanya. And then Tanya arrives in the next group. I don't know why they thought Tanya might be murdered. Like she got some votes at the round table last night, Circle of Shack, sorry. So um don't, don't know. I don't think the traitors would murder someone like that if she's potentially going to get banished. Um, and then just as Ria is chatting about Malika being one of her suspects, Malika arrives in the room. Looking incredible. She looks like Marilyn Monroe. She's in the sparkliest dress I have ever seen. Sahil's back as well, looking fantastic as always. He's made it to episode three. Well, hooray! Well done,
Mhm.
Sahil. You've got through like a whole trio of episodes. You're into week two, so that's pretty impressive. What a difference to
It,
last time.
is this the episode where he's wearing a kind of silk shirt with some kind of like necktie or something?
I
Kind
think
of
it may well
beige.
be.
Yeah. If you're listening, Sahil, could you please tell me where you bought it? I almost certainly won't be able to afford it, but if you could just let me know, I will see if I can get like a high street knockoff. I don't know if Primark or someone would do something like that. I desperately want to wear that top.
Okay, Sahil, I'm sure he's listening, so send me a DM and then we can chat about other things too. Sahil is also here to spill his theories. He's convinced Sundus is a traitor. And he's telling this to an actual traitor, Crystal, it's Sundus, and it's Abhishek. I think they're in cahoots together, which is important because of what's about to happen. Handsome Harmon arrives soon, along with Prish. Prish is very handsome as well. Got this really dapper suit on. It's all sparkly. You know what? Everyone in this episode, everyone looks incredible today. Like Rita's here too, wearing this beautiful dress. I know they always look great, but I something about their outfits today. They look like they're heading off to a red carpet.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder. Well, now that I know what the mission is, I wonder if they'd been told
Yeah.
today's mission isn't something outdoorsy and physical.
Yeah.
Um, Heads up. So they've all thought, okay, I can wear something maybe slightly less comfortable but more glam because I'm not
Yeah.
going to be pushing a big cart, or I'm not going to be setting fire to a cannon, or I'm not going to be running around a marketplace finding coins.
Yeah.
So something, yeah. It's too much of a coincidence that they look so incredible in terms of their
Well,
outfits.
I think you're definitely right because when they did the first mission, I heard some of them saying, "Oh, in this outfit," they were like, "We haven't even had a chance to change." And I think it's because they knew that they had slightly more active. I'm not talking about the sportswear because that's something else, but just, even just the amount of makeup and stuff and how you wear your hair and stuff, it's like you got to be ready. Are we running or are we just doing mind
Yeah,
games?
yeah, I think so. We're waiting for the final players to arrive. Eventually, more are coming in. The only two not here are Sundus and Shweta. And amidst all the greetings and hugging and guessing, who's it going to be? Parul hones in on Harmon. Just whilst they're hugging and talking, and I don't know what's led to this, but she's decided you're a traitor. I think she even makes a joke and says it to him, like, you better, I think it's you, isn't it? And of course, he's like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. She thinks he's a traitor. He's killed Shweta. She's telling us in Miv that she's now just going to play the game without fear of death. She will just if she suspects someone, she'll name them, damn the consequences, which I think is a great way to lose this game. But she's, like what I said before, she's very emotive. She even tells Crystal her new theory. Of course, Crystal's a traitor. She's confident. Um, uh, yeah, she thinks she's got it. Crystal's trying to swear away and saying, "Oh, but I think it might be Abhishek. Have you thought about that? You mentioned him. I think that's the one to go with." Final knock at the door. It's actually Shweta who arrives. They're all celebrating, and I actually wasn't surprised it was Shweta because this is a great example of something we talked about on the last podcast. Even though I didn't, as much as I could, I didn't pay attention to lots of the little preview clips like coming this season in the Traitors India. I knew I had seen other clips of Shweta being really passionate, arguing, circle of shit. So when Shweta was one of the last two people to come in, I thought, no, I've seen more of her. I know she's going to be in this season further. So I was not surprised when she walked back in. So it just sort of proves what we said last time. The previews can spoil things if you've got a half decent memory. And I don't have a great memory, but hey, as listeners of this podcast will know, when I forget things about seasons that have happened all the time, sometimes I forget players' names. Hey, so she comes in, which immediately puts Sahil's theories to waste. He's like, "Oh, Sandus, I thought she was the traitor, and now she's just been murdered." Okay, well, what do I know? We flash back to the traitors last night, settling on Sundus because they think it will help frame both Tanya and Malika. Because she'd had conflict with both of them. Uh, Sundus receives the letter telling her she'd been murdered, and she tells us who she thinks the traitors might be. She's like, "I think this was either Rita, Sahil, or Harmon." Don't know why those are the names. She's got one of them right. That's probably just quite likely to happen when you name three people. Maybe the traitors knew that. Maybe I don't know if they knew that she suspected Harmon, and that's one of the reasons they got rid of her. We'll never find out. We don't see it. Back to breakfast. Rita is really upset. She had this bond with Sundus. I think she even sort of cries a bit about it. She's like, "Oh man, we'd really connected. I know it's just a game, but I was so glad to have her here." And then Karan arrives, rise and shine, it's Doka time. I must say, Betrayal never looked so good. I thought, okay, you knew they were going to be all dressed up today.
Mhm.
Even he's making these little comments. I don't think he's saying it off the cuff. It's very much rehearsed and prepared. Smash goes the portrait of Sundus, very brutal with it. and gives them a clue for the mission today. It's a bloody game. Blood will find its way onto your hands. Bye, just don't die. Off he goes. Um, and so we've got a bit of time with the players to find out what they think's going on. Why was Sundus murdered? What's coming ahead? Who are our new suspects? There's a little bit of a Kulu using a cricket analogy, and I don't know the first thing about cricket, so I have nothing to say here because I don't know what he's talking about. He does hand motions and says crickety words.
Oh,
I don't know what it means. I'm just sort of
I
hearing white
I
noise.
actually, believe it or not, I actually do know cricket because it was always on in my house. We were kind of cricket watching household. I actually know the rules, like literally know the difference between an over and a wide and a
Oh,
duck and all of
okay.
this. Yeah. Would
I
you?
and I'm not saying there's no cricket in Scotland. I'm not saying that. It is a thing. It's very rare. Most people in Scotland, we don't have a clue about cricket. It's it's a bit further south in the globe for us. So
Yeah,
we're
that's
too
fair.
cold. We're too cold to go outside and play cricket, right? We although we
Well,
play lots of football. This doesn't make sense. I don't know.
all I would say is that so far, MaJiKer is definitely silly mid off.
Okay, I
I
will
I I don't know
agree.
what that means, but I do know that silly mid off is a term. It's one of the fielders. It's like a position that they stand in to try and
Oh,
catch the ball. Silly mid off. It's such yeah, silly mid off. So I would Malika is very glamorous. She's also a little bit silly mid off. There we
okay. This is why MaJiKer is on the pod to bring these
Yeah,
sports references and analogies where I fail.
exactly. Yeah.
So thank you.
I'm just a sporty guy.
So up next, remember that yesterday at the Circle of Shack, Ika voted for Ranveer, and I thought that was quite unusual, but he talks a bit more about it here. He really still suspects Ranveer and Abhishek. He thinks that they they seem too laid back. He thinks that Ranveer doesn't seem worried about being murdered, is too unfazed by that prospect. He's telling this to Shweta, who says she thinks that about Harmon. She's like, I think Harmon doesn't seem phased by anything. He seems too cool, too calm, isn't worried about being murdered. Another big group is gathering and also talking about Abhishek. They've they've come to the conclusion, rightly or wrongly, that he was the ringleader yesterday. He was the one who commandeered Munawar's banishment. Some players like Rita and Prish even think Ranveer is in collusion with Abhishek because they didn't vote for Manawar last night, and they were doing that to look innocent, and they knew the truth. It's all there are all these master plan theories going around. Probably a bit too complex. I mean, it happens all the time on the show. People, innocents, come up with these incredibly complicated theories about why someone did one thing and why that means another thing, and actually there's a secret plan behind it, and there's a puppet master, and there's a head of the snake, and these two people were it's very easy to, I guess, get carried away and come up with these mad theories and convince yourself that they're right. So we're seeing quite a bit of that here. And they're way off. We know as viewers, Abhishek and Ranveer are not traitors. But it's interesting to see what players will come up with all on their own. Remember, Perul had this plan. She says well, no, it's not a plan. She had this uh, sort of MO, this way of operating that she's going to go ahead with. She's going to die trying. She doesn't care if she gets murdered. She's just going to say who she thinks the traitors are. And she tells Harmon straight to his face she thinks he's the traitor. He's too smart and he's a great actor. I mean, she's not wrong. Like you said, we've seen him with his TED talk. Very intellectual, very clever.
go.
Parul also says the same as we just heard a minute ago from other players. Harmon doesn't ever seem worried. He doesn't seem like he's scared to be murdered. I mean, they've only had like two warnings, but still enough for Parul to make a bit of a connection. However, Ria is very defensive of Harmon. She's saying, "No, no, I'm telling you, he's innocent." She says she's known him for years. She says, "I would have noticed straight away if he was a traitor." Haha, I love these moments. And Parul's just like, "No, no, it's him." And Parul is, God love her. She's playing the game on that very superficial, obvious level. She says, "I'm an innocent. My job is to catch traitors. That's what I must do." And although, yes, that I'm going to just take a moment here, MaJiKer, because we talk about this a lot on the podcast, and most listeners of the podcast will understand why I'm kind of laughing at that and saying it's superficial. Some people listening to the podcast might be like, what's wrong with that? She isn't innocent. She doesn't want to catch traitors. Why are you saying this is a bad thing? Maybe you could explain, MaJiKer, why might it not be a good thing as an innocent to just try and get the traitors and say who you think they are all the time?
Well, because A, it's incredibly difficult, like incredibly difficult, and you can get in a lot of trouble, and you're also setting yourself up for a lot of heartbreak and stress because most of the time you won't be right. Um, B, there is the whole strategy. If you really, really know a traitor, then why would you vote them out? Why would you vote them out? Because then that they're, if you vote enough of them out, then they start to recruit, they start to get replaced. If you really know someone's a traitor, if you can do the kind of traitor angel strategy, go with them and then just take it through to the end, take them as far as possible because they'll protect you. There's so many different levels of playing it. And it's like a recent player said in Australia, they will just be replaced. They will be replenished. So
Yeah,
what are you actually gaining? I would love it one season if they just did that. They just like it must happen by law of averages, like traitor, traitor, faithful, traitor, faithful, traitor, like traitor, traitor, and then just you know. But I mean, just because of like statistics, that's incredibly unlikely to happen. So yeah, and also if you have to think about how overt you want to be with how much you're doing your traitor hunting,
yeah,
because again, that makes you a target. So you'd be better off, again, spot the traitors, keep them close, and then go after people who you don't really want in the game. That's why this really is. I kind of cringe at it when they talk about social, social game, but it really is. I just
yeah.
cringe because I think that's a little bit like some of the other games some of the other shows that I don't enjoy as much. But it is because if everyone likes you, then it just makes it incredibly hard for them to banish you.
Yeah, and I think you're right that if you're playing like Parole and you're saying, I think this person's a traitor, I'm convinced this person's a traitor, it almost doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, you will just get noticed. And so often across these different seasons of the traitors, there's a pattern I notice when the traitors get together in the secret tower or the conclave or the turret or whatever it is. And so often when they're discussing who they might want to murder at night, they'll pick a player and say, they're just so vocal and so confident. At some point, they're going to name one of us and be that confident. And it will just, at some point, it's likely to turn our way and be bad. So we don't want a player who's very honest about their opinion and might just get other people on board. So even if that player's wrong right now, Pearl's not wrong, she's actually right. We ought to just take them out and not have someone like that in the game.
Yeah.
Uh, After this, it looks like the episode is being set up for an Abhishek versus Harman face off. That's what most of the conversations we're seeing are about. Abhishek is talking to Parul and Ria. He's convinced that Harman is a traitor now. He says they know one another beyond this. They're really good friends, and he is saying, "I can tell this isn't right. Something's different. He's a traitor. I'm sure of it." Uh, Even Harman and Miv is now worried. He knows people are talking about him. He might have to, at best, be quite defensive tonight. At worst, go on the attack and come for somebody else. We also just before the mission sort of kicks off, we've got Kulu and Chanel. Just a funny little moment of that because they're both traitors. They're sitting together. They've got a quiet moment alone, and they're saying, "God, yeah, people are really on to Harmon. This isn't good." Like I think Chanel says, "Man, if they get a traitor out in the second ep or the third episode, second Circle of Shack, we're gonna look so lame. We'll be such lame traitors. Like what if they get one of us out straight away?" It just it just tickled me. Then I'm like, man, this is so embarrassing. So Karan arrives. He's wearing this fabulous blood spattered outfit. And it's only now I'm like connecting the dots between the outfit and the clue at breakfast about blood on your hands and what actually then happens in the mission, the blood. He tells them a bit about what they're going to be doing. There is it's 12 lakh rupees available again. I'm guessing that's just the pattern. That's what it is every mission. Maybe towards the end it'll be 20 lakh rupees. Tells them that last night, a little bit of a twist, the traitors already chose two players to receive shields. Interesting. I don't know where this is going. And Karan suggests this means that those players maybe don't pose any threat to the traitors. So he's sort of messing with their minds a bit. And he says those two players will automatically, um, if you are happy with that and you just want to stick with the people that the traitors chose, you'll bank the whole prize fund as it is. Hooray! But maybe things won't be as straightforward as that. He splits them into small teams, teams of three, one team of two. They're going to be entering a gallery with all of the players' portraits. One wall has a big shield shape around it. The two portraits in that shield are the players that the traitors chose last night to receive a shield. But each team will get the chance to go into the room one at a time. And if they want to, they can perform a swap. They can switch out any of the portraits in the shield with one of the other portraits. They don't have to do that. What they do have to do every time is eliminate a portrait somewhere in the room. They have to stab a portrait and stop that person from being able to have a shield at all. Karan gives them a bit of time to just quickly discuss their strategy. What are they going to do as a group? And immediately Ria's like, there's no way we're all going to agree to this. Like, no way is everyone just going to go in there and not change anything and come out the other side. She's like, someone's going to change those pictures. But a lot of the other players are saying, no, no, come on, we'll work together. We'll have integrity as a group. Let's just all agree. We'll leave the players up there on that wall who the traitors chose, and we'll win the whole prize fund as it is. We won't alter anything. I agree with Ria. There is no way people are not going to be tempted to go into that room and change things. If I may indulge for a little moment, MaJiKer, I recently played for the second time the Traitors Live experience in London. And I talked about it a little bit on the podcast recently. And there was a mission like this where all the players were given the option to secretly press a button under the table, do it quicker than everybody else to try and get a shield. But if nobody pressed the buttons, it would be something you'd win fake gold coins or something. I reacted like Ria did. I immediately knew I don't trust all of these people around this table to just patiently wait and not try and get a shield and press this button. And so I just pressed the button. As soon as we were allowed to, I pressed the button. I wanted a shield. And when I had to justify that to others, I said what Ria said. I said, there's no way we were all going to just play nice and agree to play out the task in the nice, friendly way. So anyway, I think that's probably in a group of more than 4 or 5 people, you're going to end up with some people who want to just do their own thing and be a bit sneaky and try and win a shield. And quite rightly, I think. We start the mission then, and our first team to enter the portrait room is Crystal, Shalini, and Shweta, and they discover who the traitors chose to be the shield recipients, Malika and Ansh. Straight away, Crystal tries to encourage them to do what Ria thought everyone was going to do. Maybe we should do a swap. We shouldn't just leave them in there. And we could have a shield for ourselves, guys. Come on. They go back and forth about it and actually decide not to swap. But they do have to stab one of the other portraits. And we have Shalini making some hilarious attempts to like stab in different places. And the others are like, no, no, don't do it in their face. Don't do Eventually, Shalini is successful and stabs the portrait of Ranveer. And then blood pours out from the top of the portrait. This is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to say now, I love this mission for various reasons. I like the cool effects of the blood coming down the painting. Like that's more fun for me to watch than a big explosion. Like I actually think that's more interesting.
Yeah.
Moreover, it's an interesting mission because it actually you actually want to pay attention to it to see what decisions people are making. It's all about secrecy and bluffing and deciding whether to go along with the plan that everybody had or do your own thing. And you have to decide, why do you want to pick somebody's portrait to be eliminated and why do you want to do a certain swap? Like that's so much more interesting to me. I would happily have missions like this in a room where there's like some cool visual effects, but it's about discussion and logic and strategy, not just we're going to push a big heavy car and see an explosion.
I agree. And the really interesting like mechanic of this particular mission is that for the traitors to choose who first gets the shield, that's very interesting. But of course, not everybody knows that because
Yeah.
only the first ones going in really know. And then it's about, okay, who do we want to like corroborate that? So we didn't touch it. So then they could, I almost wish we had a bit more of that saying, okay, so the ones that the traitors chose were so and so. Oh, well, they weren't up when we went in. So who put,
Yeah.
are you going to put yourself up there? Isn't that too obvious? Would you swap it for someone else? And then it could have been this whole chain of lying. Who lied? Who moved it? Who
Yeah.
lied about who the traitors originally put up? It's
Right.
very interesting. My only question is what was the order that they went in?
Um, what do you mean? Like
Because
what?
they went in like in twos and
Oh,
threes, didn't they?
like do you mean who decided that order?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they decided amongst themselves or not, or if it was just a
yeah.
production decision. Yeah, I'm
They
not sure how
should
that was
have,
decided.
they absolutely should have showed that because that was very, very important to this mission, the order.
Yeah.
I think obviously the fairest thing would have been that they draw lots or they just spin on, even maybe it was and we just didn't catch the translation, but yeah, Karan should have said you will be randomly selected in your groups to go,
Hmm.
because again that's absolutely key because you want to be if you want a shield and you're prepared to be honest about the fact that you want a shield and that you did it, you want to be obviously as far as possible, as late as possible.
Yeah, I would like to think it was either random or the players were given the choice to
Yeah,
quickly decide themselves, but
yeah.
randomized would be fairest. And you're right, the setup of the mission just creates so many opportunities for not only the traitors to deliberately pick what shields they're going to start with, but yeah, this chain of bluffing and an opportunity to lie and see if you can get away with it, and it just gives so many opportunities for conflict, which sounds horrible to say, but not necessarily conflict, just deduction and detective skills and people to
Yeah.
coordinate and put pieces together and see if they can catch someone out. The next group in is Parul, Rita, and Prish. I noticed I noticed it already, but I've noticed it again here. Rita and Prish are together a lot of the time. They are obviously really sort of I don't know if they know each other outside of this, but if not, they've become besties. They're always together. It's just quite obvious they are in their little friendship group, their little alliance. I wonder if they could use that to their advantage, ride all the way to the end together. We'll see. They decide they are also not going to swap the picks that are in the shield wall, and they stab Sahil. Outrageous. They don't want Sahil to survive another day. Malika and Tanya are next. They're the only group of two. Malika, of course, sees her picture is up there on the shield wall, and there's this hilarious moment of Tanya saying, so will we stick to the plan and we won't change the picture. That's what the group wanted to do. And Malika's like, I mean, if that's what the group decided, the group wanted us not to change them. Who am I to take my portrait down and change it with someone else? If you say so, Tanya. I just thought it was great. And they have to stab a portrait. They stab Parul's portrait. Next in, Abhishek, Harman, Ria. And again, very clear that Abhishek and Harman are genuinely buddies. They've decided to pair up together. They've talked about how they kind of know each other outside of the show, which, if the episode is going the way I think it's going, is going to create a very interesting conflict at Circle of Shack. So they're besties, and they're the two people whose names are coming up, and they're going to have to battle it out tonight. Ria immediately suggests, as she did outside, she does not believe for a second that other teams haven't switched portraits. Funnily, actually, at this point, none of them have, but some of them will. And she 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 makes that conclusion partly because Malika's portrait is up there, and she knows that Malika has just been in this room. So she
Mm.
draws the false conclusion, well, Malika's obviously just put that up there, and she's picked herself, um, which is funny. And so Abhishek and Ria decide, well, if Malika's done it, we'll do it. And they put their own portraits up on that shield wall. They then smartly decide that they ought to stab the portrait of someone who hasn't been in the room yet so that they can't
Mhm.
just swap out their own portraits. They decide to destroy Ansh's portrait. Ansh then comes in next, along with Ranveer and Kulu. They obviously see, oh, okay, right. Ansh's portrait's been destroyed, so has Ranveer's. And they decide, well, we should just play them at their own game and Kulu's the only one of them who can put his portrait up there, so he does. He puts his portrait up on the wall. Ranveer does notice this. I wonder if this is going to become significant later. He clocks that he thinks it's quite inconsistent of Kulu to take his portrait and put it up on the wall. He obviously got the impression that outside Kulu wanted to play as part of the team and go along with the agreement that we don't change any. Yet here he is in the room and takes the chance to immediately maybe have a shield. So Ranveer's spotted it. I wouldn't be surprised if this is referenced again at some point. Next into the room is Ika, Shanil, and Sahil. Out of these three, Shanil, Traitor, is the only one who does have a portrait still intact. And she does something which I think what she'll get away with. She just immediately goes, well, I'm putting my portrait up. She just immediately takes down Abhishek's portrait. She's like, I want mine on there. Sahil's sort of like, okay, sure, go for it. And I think she pulls it off because it's so immediate. Like I don't think it's sus. It just appears quite innocent of her. Like she's not scheming and plotting and trying to convince them why it's a good idea. She just gets away with appearing quite naive
Yeah.
or quite young and just is like, well, my portrait's going up. And
Yeah.
and her teammates just go along with it. So I think she'll pull it off.
Well, that's a good
The
way. It's a good way to be a traitor.
Yeah.
It's just to say, ah, well, do it like we say in French, premier degré. Like it's hard to translate. Like face value. Like just do it straight away. Like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I just want to do this. Like, what would an innocent do? They just do that straight away. Huh.
Mhm.
And then suddenly you're kind of not questioned. Why did you do it? Oh, I wanted a shield. Just
Yeah,
keep it simple.
I think so. They do, of course, have to stab one of the portraits, and they stab Tanya's. Although I sort of didn't know. I sort of there's no point really. Like they're the last team in, so there can't be any more swaps. So I sort of thought, well, what's the point in them having to stab a portrait? But then I guess it gives them the chance. I didn't realize they're all going to come back into the room after this, and they'll see which portraits were picked off.
Mhm.
So it forces them to have to play the game like everybody else and face the consequences. And it gives them the chance to to lie and be like, we didn't do that one. We I don't know. I don't know. You probably couldn't get away with that. If you said, oh, we didn't stab that one, we stabbed Ranveer's. Because then the people who stabbed Ranveer's go, no, that was us and you're lying. Okay, maybe not.
Mhm.
It forces everybody to have to make that choice and have to potentially defend it. Karan brings them back in, closes the mission. Who's ended up with the shields? It's two traitors. It's Shanil and Kulu. And of course, the problem is potential problem. It's Kulu's third time.
Mhm.
Every opportunity to have a shield, he's always had a shield. People will notice this. Um, and it means that Ria's initial prediction was correct. The majority of players did not stick to the plan. Almost everybody who went into the room kind of played it for themselves, which I think is fine. And like I said, I did it when I played the game in London. So yes, some players I'm sure are noticing Kulu has a shield for the third time. In fact, I think it comes up at the Circle of Shak
Yeah.
as well later. They have a little bit of time in the palace before Circle of Shak. MaJiKer is worried about the fact that her portrait was up there on that wall when she went into the room. She thinks it was a tactic to spotlight her on the part of the traitors. It probably kind of was. Uh, But most of the other players don't know, like you said, they don't know for sure if that was one of the first portraits up. You don't know who did a swap and who's lying about it. Only, like you said, only the first team in the room know who the traitors actually picked and the traitors themselves, but they're not going to admit that. So they'll have to be careful not to let that slip. Conflict breaks out between Shweta and Ria about the mission, about who broke their promise, who promised not to change them, but then actually changed them. Shweta gets really upset about this. In Miv, she I think she's even crying. I said this earlier. I think I was getting it mixed up with this point. She gets really upset and she says, this always happens to me. I always end up betrayed by people. And I thought this was really fascinating psychologically. We see this from time to time in the Traitors. Sometimes players relate what's happening in the game to their own actual experiences in life before arriving here, particularly connected to betrayal in relationships and friendships and family. It's it's really interesting. It's just so revealing when you have a player say that I knew this would happen. This always happens to me. I've been lied to before. People always take advantage of me. It's
Mm.
it's I mean it sounds really cruel that I'm saying, isn't this fascinating? It is fascinating. I hope there's on set care for the players to look after their
Mm.
well-being. But yeah, it's just a little interesting glimpse into the humanity of the players. That is one of the many reasons why I love the show. It's really interesting to see these little insights into people and how they relate what's happening here to their actual
Yeah.
lives.
I mean, we I think we become a little bit like blasé to it because we've seen so much of this now. But it's funny because early on, when I tried to explain the Traitors format to some friends, several of them said, "Oh, I wouldn't like that. If it's people lying to each other, I don't like these kind of, bitchy lying games where people are trying to trick each other and deceive each other." I was like, that is it, but it's not bitchy. It's not, And then anyone who watched, particularly the UK seasons, says, "Oh, it's so warm and uplifting," which it kind of is, weirdly. We don't quite know why, but it is. But at the heart of it, it's lying. It's betraying people, promising them, I am not. I swear on everything, I am not, but I am. It's a game of lying.
Yeah, and different people will just react differently to that. Some people
Yeah.
probably are better at compartmentalizing that and being able to take a
Mm,
step back and not be affected by it. Lots of people will just not be able to help but
yeah.
feel a real reaction to this. It doesn't matter that their logical mind is telling them this isn't real,
Yeah.
this is just a game, it's pretend. Yeah, lots of people will just sensitively react to that and feel the emotion of it and the hurt of it, and that's what we're
Yeah.
seeing with Shweta here. The day moves on a little bit, time passes, I think. We've got Abhishek talking to Parul about Harman again. And then um Abhishek turned. Nothing really comes of this, I don't think. Parul starts to talk about Prish. I think, unless I'm getting my players mixed up, but Parul say it's definitely about Prish, and I think it's Parul who's saying it that um, Prish is also a bad person and is like just a young child and is manipulating people. I was really taken aback by this. There are more conversations about the big suspects coming into the Circle of Shack tonight. Of course, it seems like Harman and Abhishek are going to get a lot of attention. But Ranveer is in there as well. People are talking about him. Eka voted for him last time, is probably going to vote for him again. Ria's talking about the gender divide and how she thinks the boys are. I don't think this is a fair criticism, but she's saying the boys, you're just out for yourselves. You don't care about anyone else but yourself in this game. And I think that's fine. But she does then point out what we talked about earlier. She says a lot of the women sacrificed themselves in that mission last time, and I think that's unfair. But you boys don't care about that. You're not willing to help any of us, even though we helped you, which I think is a fair point. And she's very focused on Ranveer's language. She's noticed that, in her opinion, he very conspicuously refers to himself as an innocent all the time. He always says us innocents, we as innocents, I'm an innocent. She thinks it's too noticeable. He's protesting too much. She brings it up at the Circle Shack as well. There's lots of discussion about vote gathering and figuring out block votes and calculating who's going to go for who and campaigning for support and getting numbers together. We're only on episode 3. It's our second Circle of Shack. And again, these players are really invested in the game. Like they understand how it works and they're desperate to survive. And yes, as always, it's really difficult to know who the traitors actually are, and you're just sort of grasping in the dark. But they're being so careful in their forming of votes and figuring out what the wise thing to do is. A couple of players mention it at the Circle of Shack. They'll just explicitly say, "Well, I'm going to vote for this person to save myself," or "I could have voted for this person, but I knew no one else was going to. So what's the point?" Like they're very open in just saying that, which I think is I don't have a problem with that. I think that's really interesting to watch. The players also seem very aware of when they are in trouble. Like I don't whatever happens at the Circle of Shack tonight, I don't think it's going to be some mad blindside and someone goes, "Oh, I can't believe you're all voting for me." They all seem to know. Like Harman knows people are going to be voting for him. Abhishek knows
Mm.
he's in trouble. I think Ranveer knows a couple of people are talking about him. And so it is time for the Circle of Shaq. Karan does as usual, gets us all hyped up and ready, opens the discussion. Shweta begins. She's reflecting on Manawar's banishment yesterday. And she doesn't like how calculated it was and how a whole bunch of the players had decided before Circle of Shaq that's who they were going for, which we spoke about. And she's noticed something about Harman. She's noticed that there's something not marrying up. She basically he was part of that plan, but he was very reticent to admit that. She thinks at the time, at the Circle of Shack, right after the Circle of Shack, he was kind of still acting like it was a spur of the moment decision and he just didn't know what to do. But then finds out later, you had planned to do this all along, that something's not right here. You were acting. Prish jumps in as well. Prish is saying, yeah, Harman, this doesn't make sense. You were more upset today when you heard people say they were going to vote for Ranveer than you were last night at your friend Manawar being voted out. Something isn't right. Abhishek comes for Harman as well. Like that's another. It's like last night with Manawar, a real pylon. Abhishek is saying, "I know you're a traitor. Yes, you're my friend. I'm sorry, but it's very obvious to me. You're lying. You're not being yourself. I can tell. You're a traitor. It's just so obvious to me." Um, and and he thinks that yesterday apart from just vibes, he kind of does have evidence. A bit like Shveta, he's saying, before Circle of Shack yesterday, you were going to come in all guns blazing. You were going to go for Manawar. You were going to be really aggressive. And then we got in this room and you just sat back and let everyone else do it for you. And you tried to blend in and act like you were a bit confused and you were just making up your mind there and then. He's like, I don't buy this. Harman, you're faking it. Parul comes in as well. She's saying, you know, they use this phrase. They talk about taking someone's name.
Yeah.
It's just this like interesting turn of expression. I don't know if
Mm,
it's maybe like partly lost in translation. It's
yeah.
just an interesting way to say it. They'll say you took a name, you took my name.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really on the last season we were really confused about it until we just figured out that it was a little linguistical quirk. And the other one that I love while we're on linguistical quirks is that when they say you are the traitor. And
yeah,
again, it's just obviously because then the subtitles that we were watching said you are a traitor. Um, I'm not the traitor. It's like, there's hardly ever one traitor. It's like a traitor, but again, it's just something lost in translation, I think.
yeah. I've noticed that as well. That little funny tick and the. So yeah, Parul is talking about this here about taking a name. She's saying, Harman, you took Malika's name this morning when you were talking to me. And Malika's like, what? Me? You took my name? Like, she can't believe it. Parul thinks, her point is, you are taking too many names. You're spreading different names. You're trying to control the game. I don't believe that it's genuine. She says you're not trying to take out traitors because that's the level that Parul is playing the game. She thinks you're an innocent. You try and catch traitors. You try and vote for the traitors. She's saying, Harman, you're not doing that. You're trying to just take out the people that you don't like. And that's not how I think the game should be played. And I think that's the actions of a traitor. Four different people have attacked Harman one after the other here. It's pretty clear he's in trouble. He's in a lot more trouble than I realized. I'm worried about Harman.
Mhm.
I can't see how he's going to argue his way out of this. These four players who've just attacked him are really convinced. They don't seem like they are going to back down just from Harman explaining it away. He tries to be very calm. He's saying, I haven't spread out lots of different names. I've had the same three names. Here they are. One of them is Malika. Um, and he says, I'm the victim of a manhunt now. You're doing to me what you did to Manawar yesterday. And he says, well, yeah, I did help banish Manawar yesterday because he was being really chaotic. But lots of people felt that. It's not just me. Why are you blaming me for this? There's more conflict between Abhishek and Harman. Harman's trying to turn things around on Abhishek, and he's getting so frustrated, and he's saying, "Well, no, it's not me, it's you. You're you've got this tactic I've noticed. You never initiate any of these suspect names. You're not the one to take a name. You just let other people do it, and you blame others for taking names and so on." There's there's a little moment here that's also hard to follow because I think they're referencing something that we didn't see in the edit, they don't give us a flashback, so I can't figure out what they're referring to. Harman tries to tell a story. He's got this anecdote. He's like, something happened today. And he says, four of us were in a room. And then he's blaming Abhishek. He's saying, Abhishek, you came in and said or did something. And immediately Abhishek's like, I did not say that. You're lying. Prish is also there saying, that you're lying. That didn't happen. That's not how it happened. I don't know what the situation actually was, but Harman is clearly just making something up or, you know, saying being totally inaccurate about something, and Abhishek and Prish are not having it at all. It's really uncomfortable. Ria then decides she's not listening to it. She's like, "This is too distracting. I don't believe either of you, so I don't want to hear about this anymore. I'm going with Ranveer," and takes us on in a different direction, and reminds us of what she said to a few players earlier, that Ranveer's language always focuses on being an innocent. She thinks it's too obvious. She thinks he's trying too hard to appear like an innocent, and she's noticed that he doesn't take names. He doesn't name suspects, even when he's asked explicitly.
Mm.
Eka agrees with this. Eka's like, yeah, that's my problem. This is why I voted for you yesterday, Ranveer. And Ria thinks that Ranveer was too confident in the mission today. He didn't seem to want to play for a shield. He was more concerned with playing for the group's integrity. She just doesn't buy it. She's like, why would you not want a shield? Why do you not seem to be bothered about being murdered? And Ranveer defends himself by saying, well, I guess I just see the missions differently from you. I thought it was supposed to be a team effort. I thought we were trying to bank as much money as possible, and I thought that's what everybody had agreed on. That's just me as a person. Sorry, I wasn't being completely selfish. He also makes a mistake when he's talking. He says the word innocent, ironically, instead of traitor. And Ria's like, you just said innocent, but you meant so. It's one of those moments we talked about it already. He just says the wrong thing, which doesn't make him look great in this moment. Crystal even joins in on Ranveer too. Now, of course, Crystal's a traitor. She's probably trying to protect Harman. Uh, And Parul just loses it, and she's just like, just vote me out. It's Harman's a traitor, I'm telling you. Just get rid of me. I can't take this. She's saying that she's witnessing more herd mentality. It's just like yesterday when you all came from Manawar. More arguments break out. I, I think that the final thing that rears its head at this circle of shack is a bit random. Chanel, who's a traitor, she claims she thinks Parul is a traitor. And Chanel's doing what Crystal was doing. She's trying to save Harman. I think it's too late, and it's time for the vote quite soon after this. So here we go. Ranveer begins and votes for MaJiKer, which is it. If Ran, I don't know why Ranveer did that. Ranveer must have known he was probably going to get some votes. I would have thought he would vote for Harman or Abhishek. Like, I don't know if he thought anyone else was going to vote for MaJiKer. So
I think he's just very, very strong-willed, and he was just doing his own thing. I think it was literally just, these are my thoughts. Want to get a traitor? Here we go.
yeah,
I mean, again, I think he's very, he's very wrong. In fact, I mean, it's easy for us to say because we know who the traitors are. But if you do a list of potential traitors, she'd be at the bottom of it. Really,
yeah.
I think.
He's doing what he said he did in the mission. He's like, I thought the point of the game was to stick together as innocents and find traitors. So I think Malik is a traitor and I'm voting for it. Like he's sort of like it wouldn't occur to him to just band together to save himself. Maybe that's very admirable. I don't know. Maybe it's just very foolish in this game. Chanel is next and votes for Parul because she had just mentioned her a minute ago and says she finds all her emotive behaviour really sus. Harman votes for Ranveer and openly says, I am just trying to save myself. Ranveer, I think you might get some votes, so I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. And then we get three votes in a row for Harman, Shweta, Rita, Ansh. Ria's next, and we know that Ria's going to vote for Ranveer. That's who her top suspect is. Kulu votes for Ranveer Sir. He even writes it on his slate, Ranveer Sir. So it's we've got a split 3-3 between Harman and Ranveer. Yes, MaJiKer has one and Parul has one, but they're probably not going to get any more. And then the next four votes are for Ranveer. Sahel, MaJiKer, Eka, Crystal um, are voting for it. So actually at this point I thought, okay, it's going to be Ranveer. Okay, Harman's safe. Oh, they were just they were just tricking me. Of course, my Harman is safe.
Yeah.
And then it sways back the other way. Prish, Abhishek, Shalini all vote for Harman. And I thought, oh, okay, still is in trouble. And then
Hmm.
Tanya votes for Harman. They have 7 votes each.
It's
And that
almost like
means,
they chose the order of the vote, like to kind of disguise who was going to go. They wouldn't do
yeah,
that deliberately, would they?
no, it's just a coincidence. It worked out so neatly this
Okay.
way.
Yeah.
Although it does end with, maybe there was no avoiding this. It ends with Parul. She has the deciding vote, but it's sort of not that exciting because it's pretty obvious who Perul's going to vote for.
Hmm.
She is convinced it's Harman, unless there's some wild change of heart here. You never know. Sometimes that happens. We know what's going to happen, and she votes for Harman. He's going to be banished. I can't believe it. MaJiKer, we were so naive. We were
Mm,
saying in episode 1 that we were glad he was a traitor because we're fans of his intellect and
mhm.
wanted to hear more of his intellect throughout the
Yeah.
series. So as a
Yeah.
traitor, he was more likely to last a bit longer.
I thought he seemed particularly intellectual in that vest.
Yes,
Yeah.
very, very good outfit for expressing intellect and
Yeah, exactly.
communicating and
Hmm.
being erudite and articulate.
Yeah.
But we will see the vest no more, sadly.
Oh.
I take it all back. I said that when a tall, handsome person speaks, they all just listen and agree, and it didn't last very long. Handsome Harmon has not benefited from pretty privilege at all.
Mm,
But then I realized, wait a minute, they're all pretty and beautiful. So yes, no one can
yeah.
really benefit because they're all very good looking.
Yeah.
So Harmon has his quite long goodbye speech. He really takes the moment. He is an actor. He's used to performing. He says, "You're all really nice people. He's had a great time. It's been so fun playing with you." He says, maybe I'm not aggressive enough. And it's quite apt that he isn't even speaking loudly enough here because a couple of the players I've never seen this before. They're
Mm.
like, we can't hear you, you have to speak up. Um but he says it's because he's actually quite emotional. He says, I'm getting really choked up. It's because I'm gutted, I'm not gonna be part of the game anymore. And he's very nice and sweet and says, look, after this, come and meet me and we'll have a good time and we'll all hang out. And
Okay.
he's talking to us, obviously. I
Yeah.
felt I looked right
Send
at me.
me send me the address. I'm on a plane.
I feel as the host of a Traitors podcast, I ought
Mm,
to be invited for some
yeah.
press, actually. So
Yeah.
any moment now, I'm expecting that email with my plane tickets.
Hmm.
I'll if there's a +1 MaJiKer. No, wait, I don't want you to take his attention away. I shall not be inviting you.
No.
So, he congratulates Ranveer and Abhishek for A, surviving Circle of Shack, and B, maybe targeting him correctly. Because Karan then asks, are you a traitor or an innocent? Harman says, guys, I've been telling you all. I don't know how you're not understanding. And the build up to this is ridiculous. It's like this insane series of faces all waiting, and it just drags on and on and on and on. And on. And eventually he says, I've been a traitor all along. They go absolutely fucking wild. Like the poor Harmon walks off while they are screaming in the room. Shweta's almost crying again. Abhishek's losing his mind. Parul is yelling. They're all hugging and celebrating. It's absolutely manic in that room, as it would be. Second Circle of Shack. They've done it. They've caught a traitor.
Hmm.
Whether that's a good idea or not. And Rhea now feels like an idiot. She's like, oh, well, I was just defending him and I was going after Ranveer. What the hell do I know? Malika feels the same. She's like, oh, I really didn't suspect him at all. I'm not very good at this game. And now Ranveer says, he says he feels trapped. He's like, oh no, I feel trapped. I I think because it looks like he voted for Malika rather than Harmon. So I think he's saying, oh man, I look like I was just protecting a fellow traitor now. I think that's probably what he's worried about. So Kran congratulates them for catching a traitor at their second Circle of Shack, and he says, "That's what I call a powerful move, or should I say, a surgical strike." He's Karan's ad-libbing. He's getting the lingo. He's hearing what they're saying. He's playing. He's vamping. It's very
Hmm.
impressive. He's so much fun. And off they go from the circle. They get a bit of time to debrief and celebrate. The celebrations continue. Abhishek is absolutely euphoric, and which I'll come back to that. I have a thought. Ranveer's trying to do a bit of damage control and talk to some of the guys and explain, no, no, here's it's not me. Like he's really focusing on Kulu now, and this is where he mentions, you notice he's had three shields in a row. Like, isn't that something we maybe ought to be looking at? Um, and I Abhishek is so confident. He's like, he's just caught out a traitor, so now he's on to the next person. He thinks that MaJiKer is a traitor because she didn't react the way everyone else did. She was so dumbstruck at Harman being a traitor that Abhishek thinks that's weird. He's like, why wasn't she cheering and celebrating like everyone else? This isn't right. Something's going on. Rita feels the same and thinks Kulu also isn't celebrating enough, and there's something not right about that. Chanel feels guilty because she realizes if she had voted for Ranveer rather than
Mm.
Parul, it would have created a tie. Maybe then Harman would have had a chance to defend himself and say it might not have had it. It might not have made a difference, but it's playing on her mind. She wanted to keep the traitors together. That's why she thought she was doing the right thing by voting for Parul. Actually, it just didn't help at all. And as nighttime falls, we see something I didn't expect at the end of this episode. I thought we were just going to go to the secret tower and start thinking about our next murder, but no, there is a secret mission, but we don't really find out any details because the episode finishes here. We did get a little bit of a preview of what's to come next, and I saw a little bit of it, and then I stopped myself. I don't know if you saw any of it. I'm not going to spoil it. I think I know what's going to come next. I think I know what the secret mission is. I won't say anything about it here in case listeners didn't watch it either. Um, I'm going to ask you in a moment about your overall thoughts on these two episodes and our first batch, MaJiKer. Before that, I'm just going to give a little bit of a shout out to the game that I am hosting online. I mentioned it last time. I am hosting The Betrayed online. It's a version of the show we've just been talking about, but you can play it at home. You can join us. The next game is September the 13th at 12:30 p.m. in India's time zone. It's a pay what you can game. There's a minimum price of £12. You decide how much you want to pay. If you want to pay the 12, that's fine. If you want to pay more, you can pay more. Um, the most of the games so far have been sold out or pretty full, so I would try and reserve your spot now. September 13th, not too far away. I'm also running a prediction league, so you can join in and guessing what you might think will happen from week to week. That's at losersleague.com. So you can head to losersleague.com and search for the trader or search for Traitors India. You'll find it really easily. Or you can go to the link in the episode description. And like I say, each week I will ask you to predict some things about what's coming next time. I'll ask you to predict who might be banished next, who might be murdered next, what this secret mission will involve. Will there be another tie? Or not another tie. There was almost a tie. Will there be a tie at the round table? Will Ranveer be the next player to be banished because it looked like he was in trouble tonight? You make your guesses, you build up points. At the end of the season, we have a winner, maybe multiple winners if you end up with the same points. And the winner will receive a gift card for redbubble.com where you could buy some Trader merch to show off how much you love the Traitors and how much you love this podcast. You could buy other stuff as well, but it'd be really cool if you bought some Trader stuff. So, MaJiKer, do you have any overall thoughts on our first batch of three episodes? We're already weirdly a quarter of the way into the season. Um, any wise words you'd like to leave us with?
I enjoyed them. I think I enjoyed the first episode the most, just because I was like, "Yay, we're back in the palace." Um, I I'm not sure about the way it's being edited, and it may well be that we're losing some of the nuance with the subtitles. I didn't really understand why Harmon went. I didn't quite get it. He was acting weird. They all seemed convinced, like really convinced that he was a
Hmm.
traitor. I think maybe I just wasn't paying enough really forensic attention. I didn't understand why they were so convinced that he was the traitor. It might have just been a vibe. They might have just thought, something's off. And enough of them were like, yeah, something's off. I wonder, Matthew, I wonder if it wasn't one of these things that happened off screen. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like too many camera. They used to do that in the early seasons, too many cameras pointing at him. So okay. Something he said in that wasn't caught on camera. It seems like there was something that got them all convinced he was a traitor, and I'm not sure the editors did the best job of telling that. Well, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, coming into this episode, I thought the traitor team we had were going to do really well, and I
Hmm.
didn't have any indication at the end of episode two that Harman was in trouble. It all did spring up in this episode very suddenly. I mean, what sort of summing up Circle of Shack, it seems like the main reasons he was banished was he was too calm and confident, didn't seem worried about being murdered, is just carries himself very confidently and was doing a
Hmm.
bit of name spreading. And because Abhishek knows him outside of the show, could just tell that something wasn't quite right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there must maybe something they just didn't or couldn't capture neatly in an edit is how he treated the banishment of Manawa. It seems like the problem was before the first Circle of Shack was really was confident he was going to go in and he was going to nail Manawa and get him out and he was going to give all these reasons why Manawa had to go. Then got into the room and didn't really say much,
Hmm.
and then acted like he had just voted for Manawa in the moment because of what everyone else was saying, and then the next day changed his tune and admitted, "No, I was part of a plan all along. Haha, my plan was to come in and get Manawa, and I'm so
Hmm.
glad we did that." And some of the other players just thought, "That's really inconsistent. You are changing your attitude to this banishment each time you talk
Yeah.
about it. Something's not
Yeah.
right." But that is quite difficult to convey. How do you convey that in a series of clips that you
Yes.
can
And
easily portray to an audience?
yeah, and let's remember there's so many players still. It's really
Mm,
early. I think it's very difficult for them to think about. I've always said this, think about if every single player is suspecting two, three, four, five other players, what can you do? You have to just pick out tiny little threads. I do not envy the editors of this show, particularly when there are like
mhm.
20 players. It's absolute pandemonium. I don't even know how they keep track of what everyone has said. They must have transcripts, but even still, goodness me, so complicated. And interestingly, you and I were talking about this before we started recording. These are quite long episodes,
Yeah.
and normally I like that. I wonder if it's a little bit too long and they're following a few like too many threads and it actually makes it confusing. It's like what's the sweet spot? The 42
Mm,
minute American episodes are just absolutely and Canadian ones I think are really difficult. It's like bish bash bosh. I suspect Bob. Oh, Bob's been voted out. What a shame. It's like that's a bit too simplistic. But these ones, oh, I was struggling to really keep with it. Also because they dumped all three episodes,
yeah.
1 hour and 20-minute episode per week. Not that I'm saying that's what they should do, but that would be a very different thing. There's just an awful lot. There's an awful lot of this show to watch. So it sounds like I'm down on it. I'm actually really enjoying it. Great cast, as ever, great production. But I'm waiting for it to kind of go up a gear now, by which I mean fewer players. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. And we all love a mission, whatever it is, in plain sight. We love that.
I agree with everything you said. The end. Um, I should, for the sake of an interesting podcast, I should disagree and argue with you, but no, I totally agree. And it must just be a momentous task to edit all of this footage with all of these players, especially, like you said, at the early stages of the game when there are so
Hmm.
many different conversations going on. Even, this is not the same thing, but even when I am watching these long episodes, I'm taking notes and or, as much as I can, but I'm sort of making judgments on, well, is that going to come up later? Do I really need to write that down? Do I really
Hmm.
need to say this bit on the see? And as I'm going through my notes on the podcast when we're talking, I'm like live editing. I'm like, well, I think I actually don't need to say that now, and I did take that note at the time, but it kind of doesn't really matter. So I'm skipping things and
Mm,
deciding what I think really is that important to talk about, which is tough when you have these big long episodes and you have three of them all in one go. Uh, there's one final thing I would say, and I think you suggested this earlier. I'm enjoying the season, loving the cast, but I found it quite more crossing over from tense to uncomfortable a couple of times. Like they're getting really quite personal and really aggressive this early on, like so
yeah,
impassioned at the Circle of Shack. But sometimes it wasn't as fun as I thought it would be. Sometimes I just thought, oh, this is
yeah,
really horrible to watch, actually. Like the pylon and particularly, and I know we're making jokes about Harmon being really hot, but I actually did feel really horrible watching him at the start with just one person after another
yeah,
shouting at him across the table.
yeah.
And he was a traitor, but he's not a bad man.
Mm.
So I did think, oh God, this is just like hideous. Now he's got to like squirm and work his way out of this. Um,
Yes, and I mean it was a first having Munava like having a rant as he's literally walking off screen going backstage.
yeah,
And okay, it's interesting, it's kind of dramatic, but it's not really good vibes. That's not quite what we want, you know? And above I don't mind drama, of course not, but it's when it gets personal. And you know, to say I didn't even like what Munava said, but it's because he was really upset. You know, you what did he say? You're in,
is that you're all insecure? Your insecurity is so
insecure. But
obvious.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's so personal. He must have really felt that. So, you know, feel what you want. But to say insecure people, it's like we're playing a game. You don't
yeah,
say that, you know, if you have to be a very bad game of Monopoly that suddenly you just go, you insecure people, I've lost. You know, it's like it's a game. It is a game.
yeah. And at least Harman did finish by saying he still really liked everyone, and then he invited you and I to come and hang out with him. So
Yeah.
there are no hard feelings. I'm glad he's
Yeah.
not taking it personally
Hmm.
because he knows what we think and feel about him, even though they filmed this in the past. I don't know. Anyway, our connection is so strong it crossed time and space, and
Yeah.
so he was speaking to us. MaJiKer, thank you so much for joining me, not just for episode one, but episode two and
Hmm.
episode three all together. We've talked a lot
Yeah.
about this season, um, and I think you will be back with me at some point. We've yet to organize all of it, but you're
Who
probably going to come
knows?
back and talk more. I do have another very exciting co-host for the next episode next week. I can now update our Losers League prediction game online with the results of what's happened in episodes two and three. Go ahead and see what questions I'm asking about for next time. And until then, bye. Just don't die.